just because it's what you want to hear, it does not mean it is what I should be saying. Art at its best is unpredictable, even for the creator. It's an expression of soul and an exercise in freedom. It can't have structure or expectations. Let me tell these dick jokes, lady. That's what I wrote.
Welcome back, friends. Our guest today grew up in Yemen, then Ethiopia, then Minnesota, and now resides in New York City as a full-time comedian who's made appearances on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Comedy Central, and even The Plus right here in Eau Claire. Welcome to the show, Ali Sultan.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for trying hard to get my name right. I like that.
Sultan. No,
that was pretty solid, man.
Okay, well,
I hear so many versions. I've given up.
Yeah, dude. Well,
I'll take whatever.
Honestly, I listened to a bunch of podcasts you were on, and I feel like people still like pronounce the Sultan or Sultan. Like I feel like they pronounce
Sultan
it differently.
Is really like the closest you can do. That's the best pronunciation I've heard in a while.
I did my best. So in your own words, who are you and what are you passionate about?
I am a creative. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer. Just a creative human being, and I like to travel and make people laugh and make things that make me feel good.
What other things do you create besides stand-up comedy?
Sometimes I dabble in sketches. I just wrote a movie, feature movie script. My whole thing is just like, I don't like to put myself in a box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the essence of who I am is just a creative writer, and that,
Sure.
But it doesn't always have to be comedy. It doesn't have to be, I like to tell stories, I'm a storyteller. How about that? A storyteller who uses different mediums.
Do you write for other people at all? Like, I know a lot of people like Dina Hashem, who's on the show. She writes for, one of those TV shows, Best-Selling. She wrote for some shows and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You had Dina Hashem here. She's great.
Yeah.
Not quite. The only guy I've written stand up for was Adam Carolla.
Oh, sick! I haven't heard his name in forever.
Yeah. He's still out there. He's still doing his own thing, and he was transitioning back to stand up.
Yeah.
And a friend of his is a friend of mine. She me and my friend Robert Burrell wrote some stand up for him, and
yeah. I want to hear some of your connection here to Eau Claire, because you're doing 3 nights here, which is not super common. I don't know that I've seen anyone else do that.
I didn't know this, but I'm the second person ever to do a full weekend here.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you're the first person I can recall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what is your connection to Eau Claire? You grew up, well, you didn't grow up in Minneapolis. Well, you kind of did, right?
I spent 20 years in Minneapolis. I was home.
Yeah, from when you were 15 until fairly recently.
Yeah, until
right?
exactly. I just moved to New York 6 months ago. So, I was in Minnesota for 20 years, and when you do start comedy in anywhere really, it's hard to get stage time right away.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get good stage time. You can get stage time. You can get on open mics with a bunch of comics in the back, no audience.
Sure.
But stage time where there's a real actual audience and it's fun and then you're not just performing in front of your peers is rare. And Eau Claire, the Plus, had an open mic, I believe, either on Wednesday or Thursday at the time.
Yeah.
So a local comic, Ryan Call, who moved to the city.
Oh, I know Ryan. Yeah.
He brought me and our other friend, rest in peace, Raghav, to the Plus, and I did a set. And Colin, who runs the show, is an incredible human being, even though he doesn't like compliments. He's a piece of shit. He would rather hear that.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, and he's so kind to new people. And when he sees even a little bit of funny, he'll give you an opportunity to come back and headline and do 20 minutes or whatever. So he was so kind to us, and it was such a fun experience that I love the city, and I try to come back anytime I can.
When was that? How many years ago?
Probably 10 years ago.
I was going to say, because Clearwater Comedy has been going for a very long time at this point.
Yeah, I think I was 3-4 years in when I did that trip, and I think it was about 10 years ago. Maybe 20, maybe a little more. About 2015, yeah, about 10 years ago. And then I think it's one of the first rooms I've ever headlined.
Wow.
Where I did 45 minutes. And then I ran my special, before I recorded my special, I ran the hour here maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
And then last time, I don't know what I was doing in town. What was I doing in town, Ebenezer, last time we were all here? No, you weren't. Maybe you weren't here. It was me. Ebenezer is sorry. He's not on the pod, but he's my opening act and a good friend. I think I stopped by for somebody else and hang out, and then we talked, and I was like, hey, I would love to come back and do a full weekend.
Oh, rap. So
yeah.
Listening to all the other podcasts that you've been on, I still never actually heard the story of how you got into comedy besides you, like the first comedian you saw was Jim Gaffigan, or you found online or whatever was Jim Gaffigan.
How did I get into stand-up? Well, it's a very, it was not an easy find. I'll say that. Because I was going through my early 20s, late teens, just struggling to figure out what my thing is.
Yeah.
I knew I was meant to do something, and I knew it was something that could be, important, right? Sharing your story is important, but I just didn't know what medium. So I went through so many avenues. I was always close. I knew it was writing based, so I did poetry. I did a little rapping. I was terrible. I did. You're laughing. I did my rapping phase was some of the most atrocious. I would like to apologize to the hip hop community. It was some of the worst shit ever.
What was your rapper name?
I had no rapper name. I was like Ali Sultan, baby, and it was audacious because like I had no rhythm. I couldn't rap. I couldn't write rhymes. I had zero business doing rapping, but I was doing poetry first. I just like I felt like I had more personality than just poetry.
Sure.
Because poetry is just you're behind the pen and then you let the pen speak, right? With this, I was like, I know whatever I need to do involves me as well, involves the heart and the passion and the face and whatever. So I was like, maybe it's rap. And it was not it. And I don't know. And then I just kind of had to like soul search. I wrote a book when I was like 19, 20. It's nowhere to be seen. So I tried that for a bit, see how that feels.
Is it just because you didn't like it or you're not proud of it? How come it's not anywhere to be found?
The idea wasn't bad, but it's so old. I don't know if I have the energy to go and reread it, you know?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Just laziness, really. But I think the idea wasn't bad. And the story wasn't too terrible. And I wrote that and I was like, maybe that's it. And then I just kind of have to like go back to, you really know what you want to do very early on if you pay attention. I think, because I remember in high school they gave us a test, and it was supposed to tell you what you can do in the future, right? Like a job. I don't know what the test was called, but it was a bunch of questionnaires. And in high school, I wanted to be a theoretical physicist. I was really into physics and math and all that stuff, and I just wanted to be that guy. And I was answering the questions hoping that it's going to say theoretical physicist, scientist, something like that. I was good in these areas. And the answers were movie director. It was all Hollywood.
Huh.
And I remember being upset. I was like, this is not what I want. I had no interest at the time. I was just like so busy with that persona.
Sure.
And then before that, when I was 15, I saw Jim Gaffigan, and I would watch Conan a lot. I would watch Conan at night, and the reason I watched him is I didn't speak English well, so he was very animated, and it was really easy to understand. And I saw Jim Gaffigan do stand-up comedy, and this is probably 2004 or 5. And I was like, whatever that is, I love that. That feels like a kindred thing. That feels like I feel like this guy puts in thoughts and observation the way I think.
And you just found that on like YouTube or something?
No, I was watching live Conan episodes.
Oh, okay, cool.
On the TV.
Yeah.
I had a little TV in my room, and I would watch that. And I would also love the monologue that Conan would do. And I would always imagine myself doing the monologue. And I would actually like write jokes. I wrote jokes about Bush and all this stuff. I remember one of my first premise I've ever wrote when I was 15 is that it was the observation that America votes based on personality and entertainment, not based on like how well,
Yeah, for sure.
Well, how good anyone is.
It's a popularity contest.
Yeah, and I was using like, and Arnold was like the governor at the time, and Bush was more entertainer than Kerry or something like that.
Yeah, John Kerry.
And that was like my first observation as a comic that I wrote a bit and I imagined myself on Conan doing it. But it was like an impulse thing. But I don't know stand-up. I've never seen stand-up live. I don't know how you become a stand-up. It was not a profession that's in my culture. No, there's never been an Ethiopian comedian at that time, stand-up wise. There's never been a stand-up comedian from Yemen until I started. So I didn't have a path. So a lot of people They might like know someone that did stand up, or they see people like them that did stand up and they see that it's a possible path, right? If you're Jewish, you're like, okay, there's so many successful Jewish comics.
Sure.
There's an avenue. If you start now, it's so easy because everybody's got a podcast and they're talking about the process and how to start, and there's open mics. None of that information was available then. So because of that, I just didn't hold on to that thought or impulse. And that first summer, I had to take English, like extra English classes, the first year of school in here, 9th grade. And I felt comfortable in the class, and I was just like clowning a lot, making jokes. And this Mexican dude said, dude, Ali, you should be a stand-up comedian. And this other white kid would come back every day, and he loved stand-up. So he'd like give me one of his earbuds, and he would let me listen to, I think, Carlin or somebody.
Sure.
But I had no idea what the guy was saying. I didn't have good English yet, but I would just laugh at the same time this guy was laughing to act,
to fit in.
Yeah, to just like make him feel good. And he would do that with me every day. So like stand-up was, the signs were there. Yeah. If I paid attention, it was there. But I just didn't think it was a career path. So now, I finished high school. I'm kind of miserable. I'm trying to figure out what it is that I want to do. I'm lost. I try poetry. I write this book. And I'm just kind of lost. I'm not in a good place. I feel like I'm living as a shell of myself. And I would go to these college parties with my friend who went to the U of A. And I was very socially anxious. I don't like being in crowds, and especially amongst people I don't know. And to be comfortable, I would do a character. I would just pick a character and do the character. So sometimes I'll be a soccer player from the Middle East who's happened to pass by. Okay. Sometimes I'm a prince, And I would do these characters, and the character allowed me to be like more outgoing and more audacious with my thoughts and funny. And I would by the end of the night, there would be a crowd around me.
Sure.
When I was going to these parties as myself, I was just standing alone, just like kind of anxious, not talking to anybody. Yeah. When I would do the character, I will form a crowd, and everybody would be like laughing and loving me. And my friend Andrew was my best friend. We went to high school together. Was like, hey, dude, you should do stand-up, man. This is so funny. And I was like, at the time, I'm watching a lot of stand-up. That's the only time I felt like heard and seen. I would just watch comics, and I'm like, dude, I have that idea. Like Chris Rock would do a bit that I thought about.
Sure.
Carlin would say a thing about like religion that I resonated with. I was just like, these guys were my champions. And I was like, yeah, maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to give stand-up a try. So I Google, how do you start stand-up? Or comedy clubs, and Acme Comedy Company pops up. It's a comedy club that's been open for 30 years now, maybe 35. And they had an open mic on Monday, and I called Andrew and I said, hey man, found a place. They have an open mic. You can sign up and do 3 minutes guaranteed. Let's go on Monday and do this open mic. So that's like 2011 MLK Day. It was on a Monday. Go there, sign up. I'm on like the 7th guy on the list, but I didn't expect this place to have like almost 300 people at the open mic. This open mic is legendary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it still is, right? Like that's the hottest comedy spot in Minneapolis.
Probably one of the best open mics in the country.
Yeah.
Like, 200 plus people, full mini theater essentially. And I was like, dude, this is nerve wracking. This is like, I don't know if I can go up and do that. And then I got kind of low up, did a little drinking. And I told him at one point, I was like, let's just leave. Sure. And Andrew's like, if you don't do this, I'm not going to give you a ride back. I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I go up. I ran the 3 minutes. I practiced it. I say a few setup words, and nobody's like laughing. I'm nervous as hell. So I break character, and I just like do a little bit of a crowd work. I just make fun of a guy or address a guy. And that gets a laugh. And that laugh gave me the juice to like then go back, dig it into the set, and just do the material. Yeah. And I was getting laughs. So from that point, I was like, objectively, it wasn't a good set, but audibly, it was a good set. I was getting big laughs. Finished the set. This man stands up, gives me a standing O, and high fives me. And I'm like, this shit forever, bro. This feels so good. This is what I've been looking for. This clicked. This is it. This is what I was looking for. And, it's the second time I go up. Now is the opposite experience. It's at a bar where meth was sold often. Mostly comics in the audience. The host was an asshole. I was new, and he kind of abused that. I brought a high school friend and my best friend again, and they sat in the front. I went up. I was bombing so hard, I was like, my mouth was dry. And I remember like giving up. I was like, I think I'm done, because I wasn't getting laughs. And the host goes, stretch, it's like an move to make me like go longer, to make me suffer more. Oh. And by the way, I was doing this set in a fedora hat, so I'm not the protagonist in this story. I'm a little asshole young kid with ambitions. And I bombed so hard, my friend who I brought recommended I do magic. He's like, have you ever considered being a magician? That's how hard I bombed. But that was important. So I felt what success feels like, and I felt what failure feels like. Because the first time, that was the highest high. The second time, it was the lowest low.
Yeah.
And I think if I started with the second time, I might have been discouraged to come back and do it. But I needed this. I needed to feel good first.
Yeah.
But now I knew like you can do it, and it can feel that great, and you can do it and it can feel that bad. And then I knew that the stage time of like Acme is not easy to come by. You might sign up for a year and get up once.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a hard start. The first 2 years in setup is really tough, because you don't get a lot of, that's how I got to Eau Claire, and when I was like, oh, there's an audience actually who laugh and da-da-da. So yeah, man, it was, I felt the success. I felt the failure, and I kept going. I took I did 7 mics the first year because it was like so hard.
Sure.
But I did a competition, I think a year later, brought a lot of friends, and I bombed so hard. And I remember this girl went up after me, and she was like, what a surprise. The Yemeni guy bombed, and it got a bigger laugh than anything I've said. And that made me feel so bad. I wanted to hide. I wanted to like not show my face to my friends. I felt so embarrassed. But then I vowed, I was like, I'm going to, this like not going up on stage and being afraid of bad stage time. I'm going to go up every day. I'm going to come back next year. I'm going to win that contest. So the next year, by then I started going up every day. And then the next year I won that contest, and I won the Acme's contest. It was a House of Comedy and the Acme in the same week. And no one has ever done that in that scene.
Wow.
Ever since and before. Then I got success, and sure. I got like, then that comes with like people's bitterness and jealousy and stuff like that. So it created other complicated environments. But I knew the way to keep going is to work hard. There's no shortcuts in comedy.
Yeah.
You got to write, you got to go up.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
that's a long answer, but yeah.
No, I'm glad that you were able to paint the picture for it. No, I agree. I think if you don't have any taste of like goodness to it, it's really hard to stick with it, which is why I appreciate Cullen so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously you've been to plenty of shows there, you've performed there. Mm-hmm. Cullen's like the loudest laugher and claps at like everything to make everyone feel good. Yeah. And I think it makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. How long was it before you built up enough for like a comedy special? Because I mean, I know in America, and I was talking to Emma Dalenberg, she said they do longer sets in Europe right away. But in America, it's a lot of like 3-minute, 5-minute, it's like a slow progression. Was it like a couple years before you had a 45-minute set, or how did that go?
First of all, Europe, they do longer sets because they don't write punchlines. They do
longer stories.
They just do one person shows, and it's like there's not a lot of punchlines moving the story, which is fine. That's a different format, but it's not quite stand-up. Sometimes it's just like you do your first special because you were asked.
Okay.
You might not be ready for it, but you just kind of put together what you have and you try to meet the opportunity. I think my first special was in 2018, something like that, 2018. It was a half hour for Comedy Central Arabia. So like the Comedy Central has like the US side, but it has like the Africa Comedy Central.
Sure.
It's got the Middle East Comedy Central, and that's like 22 countries that watch Comedy Central. And they were going to do their first rounds of 30-minute specials, the way that we have the half hours here.
Okay.
And this guy hit me up and was like, hey, man, come and, would love for you to be one of these guys, one of the maybe 7 episodes or whatever it was. And showed up and did my first special there. And I had the 30 minutes. Writing-wise, I had the 30 minutes. I had good writing. But delivery-wise, I wasn't there yet.
Sure.
There's the jokes, and there is the soul, and there's like the freedom, of expression.
Yeah, and stage
jokes
presence
are a
and all
vehicle to your soul, and sometimes you just your soul is not emitting. You're like, sometimes you can tell the same joke in 3 different times and get 3 different reactions.
Sure.
sometimes it's the crowd that come, but sometimes it's you. It's just how much joy were you having, how much were you giving out. There's an energy, there's a vibration that you emit when you tell jokes. And it wasn't there. I wasn't comfortable on stage yet, but the material was there. So I did that 30-minute set. First time there, I had the material. I did that, and then that was 2018. Same year, I started doing the road and practicing headlining sets by headlining, and then that got once I got a 45 that was crushing all the time, I was like, oh, I can just do this forever and just crush every road gig.
Sure.
But then I'll never grow, so I should put this on a album and then restart the process, write new.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I made my first album in 2018, second one in 2020, and then I had another half-hour special on Apex.
And those were all just audio?
The specials are visual, and then the albums are audio. Yeah,
okay.
The first two. And then my bigger special where I think I was showing my skill set and my comfortability on stage increase was the last one I put on. That one I was very proud of. I didn't get as many views as I wanted it to because I didn't have a big YouTube following. But that one, I love that one. That's it's called Pop, Jazz, and Blues, and it's I think 45 minutes long, and it's a little bit of crowd work, a little bit of dick jokes, a little bit of thought-provoking jokes.
Was that the one with the Swedish guy?
Some vulnerability. Yeah. It's exactly
that was funny. Yeah. So you have. I know it depends.
And the dry bar too. The dry bar cleaner set, and people love that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was awesome. I watched both sets. I saw the one that's at 1.7 million views too. I know a lot of comedians I've talked to have kind of ran into that same spot of not sure where to release a special because you want to build your own audience. So putting it out on your own YouTube channel would be great to be able to build an audience on there. But if you don't have an audience, people just aren't going to see it too, right?
Yeah,
so how did that first big one come to be, the one that has 1.7 million? And it looks like it was around the same time that you did your first late night show too, right?
Sure.
Which one came first?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I recorded the dry bar in 2020 actually.
Okay.
It was right before the pandemic, February of 2020, when Utah, and I think I've already recorded a late night by then, but it wasn't released. With Utah, did the 30-minute thing, and it did well on their apps. They released it on the apps first, and then they put it out on YouTube, and now it's a 1.7 million.
Yeah.
But that was in 2020, and I think they released it in maybe 2021 or two, honestly. They take a long time to release a special.
Yeah, okay.
It's a year and a half later. And that's how that came about.
How did you get selected for that? Did you know somebody there?
Anything is like any other business. Comedy is just like another job. When you're applying for a job, you're only in as if you know someone, right? A lot of times it's who you know, right? Yeah. Comedy is the same thing, man. If you're kind and you're doing it well, you build relationships. I think that one came from I was doing a set at a festival in New York, and this guy was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were clean." I was doing a clean set. I was practicing from Colbert actually.
Okay.
And it was a clean set. He's like, dude, I had no idea you did. You were clean. I should recommend you to dry bar because he did dry bar.
Okay.
And then he recommended me to one of the bookers, and then they said send a tape material, and I had an album.
Yeah.
And that album was all clean. The first album was completely clean.
Okay.
And that's what they want. They want clean. So
was that pretty intentional when you wrote that?
The album, I wanted my writing to be strong, and I knew that emphasis gets a bigger laugh just because of emphasis. Saying something gets a bigger laugh because you're emitting that emotion, and it's a stronger, what I'm talking. So writing cleaner is harder because then you don't have these emphasis. So you're gonna figure out another way to emit those emotions. And I just wanted it as a challenge. I wanted to write clean, and I also knew from a couple of advices I've gotten from older comedians like Tim Harmston is, if you want to make some money right away in comedy, you gotta have a clean set. Because when you have a clean set, you can do colleges, you can do corporates, and these pay a lot more than other sets.
Yeah.
So as a challenge and as a way to trying to sustain a career, I wrote my first thing clean, and I was clean for the first album and so on. And then one day I was like, you know what? you're also it's harder, but it's also you're limiting your self-expression. Because I don't live a clean life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes sometimes you, and sometimes some of these things are funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, sometimes things have sometimes life is dirty, and there's a funniness to that. So then I started working, doing everything that I can. I just go all subject matters. That's kind of how that came about. But yeah, the first album was Clean, which helped a lot because that album got me Colbert and also got me Dry Bar. Plus the recommendations.
Do you still kind of have a set that obviously you can, but do you, I guess, I don't know, do you book your own shows or do you have a booking agent?
I have a college and a corporate agent, and
okay.
I stand up clubs and stuff like that. So mostly through reputation and recommendations and just a network I've built in the last 14 years doing stand up.
Do you still look to book some clean sets at some of those other places? Just because
the only time I do clean sets fully is what I'm doing college or corporate. That's what they require by contract.
Right. Yeah.
So I do my clean sets for these things, and I have a clean hour and 20 minutes or something like that I can pick from and do. And when I'm doing a club, this is how I see it. I see it as this: if I come to you, I'm playing by your rules. If I go to a college or a corporate event. A corporate event is usually an office party type of situation. It's all employees and stuff like that. I'm in your territory. I'm in your world.
Yeah.
So I got to abide by your rules.
Yeah.
You come to a comedy club, you're in my world.
Sure.
And in my world, things can get dirty, things can get grim, things can get edgy, things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a club, I'll do whatever I want. In a corporate, I'll just abide by whatever, just like an etiquette thing, plus contract stuff.
It's the same way if you go into somebody's house, right?
100%,
you follow
100%,
by their
100%.
rules.
And then sometimes I just if I sometimes I gotta read the crowd. I'm okay.
Yeah, sure.
I just gotta just be reasonable.
Yeah, of course. So what happened after that special came out, the clean one? Because that one did take off so much, I'm curious how that affected your career from there. Did it open up a lot of doors or not really? Because it has been there's a lot of views, but it has been a gradual. It wasn't one spike, right?
Sure, yeah, man. I think with comedy, it goes one or two ways. Sometimes people just, one clip goes viral and then they hit a spike and it changes the trajectory of their career. Yeah. I've done comedy for 14 years, so I feel like mine has been a gradual build, and everything helped. Colbert helped a little bit. Dry Bar helped quite a bit. That's how I got my corporate and college agents, because they saw a clean sample in Utah in front of Mormons. Because sometimes when you're brown and you do stand up, some people think you're a novelty act. They think that you can only entertain your own people.
Sure.
Which is fine, but I just started comedy in the Midwest, so I was just mainly doing white crowds, so I can translate my stuff and my experiences to any crowd.
Yeah.
So that was a good sample, because it's he's this is as white as it gets. It's Mormons, it's clean and it's a good tape, and a lot of very positive reaction from whoever watched that. So it gets a lot of love. So because of that, I think I was able to get corporate and college agents, and that pays well. That was really helpful as far as surviving as an artist. But aside from that, I think because it's YouTube and because it's clean and because it's for a certain demographic, it's not like Gen Z and millennials who are watching these specials.
Sure.
So it doesn't really translate to a lot of social media follows.
Yeah.
So that kind of just helped, and I think people know of me, and sometimes they come to shows. But Don't Tell is more of a younger set. There's a thing called Don't Tell, and I had a Don't Tell set that did really well, did good on YouTube as the full set, but the clips were going viral.
Okay.
And that got me a lot of social media followers. So it's just different kind of success. That one, brings money and people to the show, and the other one brought me some followers, and it's kind of hard to track who's in the audience and who saw me from what. I don't really ask them, but
yeah. Well, I think you just have to spread kind of everywhere, right? Like through this show too.
Just gonna do what you can.
I put out clips kind of through all the platforms.
And
different episodes will work better or worse. Just kind of randomly, one will take off on TikTok for this particular one, or one will do better on Instagram or whatever.
There's no rhyme or reason. I put a bit that or something that got like 1,000 views on Instagram, and then it got 250,000 views on Facebook. You're like, what is?
Yep. I've had a lot of the same thing, specifically like with TikTok and Instagram. How do you feel about the jokes that you do put on social media? Do you try to keep a lot of them not on social media specifically, so that way when people come to shows, it's not going to be stuff they've already seen? Because people also kind of want to see the jokes that they laughed at already, Yeah,
I guess they do. I don't like repeating things, and I feel self-conscious if I do bits that people's seen before. Like, I ran an ad in town with a one bit. It's a good bit. And yesterday I closed the show with it, and even doing it, I was like, I wonder who's seen it, who's seen the ad. You know what I mean? I was like, I was kind of self-conscious telling the joke, because I feel weird about doing the same material that people have seen. I think it's better to bring new stuff. So yeah, sometimes you feel self-conscious about like, okay, I put this on social media and people see me, might see it. But the reality is like more people have not seen your stuff than seen it. There's a lot of people who haven't seen your material. So I think, I know a friend of mine who found a lot of success, just every joke he had, he just put on the internet. And then now he has like a very decent following and people buy his tickets. I could, I guess, be better at that. But yeah, I do still feel self-conscious about putting things that I'm doing in my current act. So a lot of times whatever I'm doing in my act is not on social media.
Sure. When the stuff that you perform, say like last night, is that you kind of curating what your next special is going to be, or do you pull from a lot of what has been successful from the past specials?
You don't think about it, and you shouldn't think about it in terms of specials and whatever. You think about it in terms of like, one thought at a time, one joke at a time. You know what I mean? You're just like, you're writing, you're just expressing yourself, and you're expressing yourself in a funny way, and you're like, okay, this is a funny idea, a good joke. Let me try that. It works. Okay, let's put it in the vault. Something else works. Oh, let's put that in the vault. And then you have an hour of things, and you're like, okay, how does this hour go together? Because these are individual thoughts.
Right.
Okay, this is kind of similar theme to this thought. Let me put that in a chunk so that I can do this joke and transition to this joke and transition to this. And then once you have that hour and it works strong and you're bored of it, you go, okay, I need to move on, but I should just put this out somewhere. That's kind of how I think. I just think about it in terms of craft and just going one day at a time. I don't think about like, what's my next special will be.
Yeah, but when you come back to different, like the same markets, it's still somewhat that thought process, right? If you don't want to say jokes that people who bought tickets from you previously.
Yeah, if I go to a club, I usually try to space it out a year and a half.
Right.
And I want to at least come back with a new 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, don't you normally perform 45 to an hour?
30
so some of it's
is new enough. Plus, I'm also very interactive with the crowd. You know what I mean? I like to like talk to the crowd instead of like, not necessarily crowd work of like, where are you from? What kind of job? None of that. But like more like, do you resonate with this idea? How do you feel about this?
Sure.
So my shows are never the same. So even if you saw 10 minutes off the set, it still will feel pretty new to you.
Do you film a lot, or do you have somebody with you, say your opener, filming a lot of your stuff, so that way you can kind of look at it for one, just to critique yourself on how you performed, but also then to potentially use for socials?
Sure. I think if you really want to get better fast, you should watch your stuff. I'm very terrible at that. I don't like watching my stuff. I just don't have time, and life is so busy.
Sure.
But I know a decent amount about cameras and stuff like that. So a lot of times I'll come and tape my own stuff. Sometimes I'm lazy. So this week I was like, I don't want to haul this camera and charge the battery and make sure I have the SD card and blah, 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 and all this stuff. So I didn't do it this week, but I have like probably 10 to 20 hours of material like that I haven't put out yet. Not material, but like clips that I can clip out, things from interaction with crowds, a bit, an idea, whatever, So I have so much that I could probably should get someone to help me clip things out and stuff. But yeah.
Do you have much of a strategy for a schedule for that? Like, do you ramp up posting of clips before you go on? I know comedians don't really tour because you kind of just are always going. But do you have a strategy as far as like, I want to put one a week, and then when you post it, do you post it across all of them, or is it just kind of sporadic?
Yeah. It's funny. I can tell about your personality based on questions you ask. I was like, this is why you make a living doing a podcast.
There's a structure.
You're very structured. You're very organized. I have ADHD, so I'm just more of like a flowy guy.
Sure.
The way I like structure my life is like, okay, I have to work on the script, and that's I've always have like 5 things that I need to do, and then I figure out the priority of which one needs to be done, and then it's just like right now lately it's just been the script. I'm on a second draft, and I gotta like go third and fourth draft.
What's the script for?
It's like a movie
Okay.
that I'm writing, and kind of comedy adventure, and that's been my main thing, and it's taken a lot of my thought process. And sometimes, if I feel like it and I have a lot of extra time, I'll go and like, put out a clip or edit a clip and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't necessarily have a schedule. Some people do that. Some people are like, I'm going to release 1 clip a week, this date, this, that. And because that doesn't feel good to me, because it feels like a job.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to change my relationship with social media. I don't want to have this relationship where every clip is a way to lure more followers. And I'm trying to think of people. I don't want to think of people as followers and a way to gain them with every clip. It feels like you're just throwing a net, every time, and you're trying to like catch followers. And I don't like that. It doesn't make me feel good.
But it is a promotional tool.
It is a promotional tool,
right?
But if that's all you're doing, it feels yucky. You know what I mean?
Sure.
For me, at least. And not everybody has to be like me. So I feel empty if I'm just treating it as a promotional tool. So like I've been transitioned from doing that, because my stories used to be like, I'm doing this show, I'm doing that show, I'm headlining this show, here's a picture of me doing this show, here's a picture of me crushing, and I just didn't feel good. It felt so. Now I like put thoughts and feelings of whatever inner thoughts I have on my stories, and actually saw like a lot more engagement. People like resonate with it. It's more meaningful. Sometimes it's like an advice, sometimes it's something vulnerable, and that feels better to me. So I'm trying to change my relationship with social media. Like I don't want to, if I think a joke is good, I just want it out there because I think it's worth sharing, instead of like going like, here's a bit, let's hope it goes viral, and you're so attached to the outcome instead of the bit and the fun part of like, oh, this is a good thing that I think people would like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like not be too businessy with social media as of late. I did go through a phase where like, oh, 1 week, 1 post a week, and let's see if it goes viral. And something gets 10,000 views, you get mad. But you shouldn't. That's 10,000 people that watch your shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just trying to detach myself. I feel you're not spiritual. I'm a spiritual guy. I feel what's for you will find you. Whatever that is meant for you will find you. And I think if you work with intentions and you're kind and you're not bitter and you continue doing what you're doing, like the universe is going to work itself out.
Yeah.
With some discipline and stuff like that. You got to work with intention. You got to be smart, but I don't want to work with desperation.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I've found is if you just do what generally feels good to you,
right,
it tends to work out.
Right.
Again, whether it's a spiritual thing
100%.
or whatever, like if you do what feels right to you, what your gut feeling is, it tends to work out. But I also think there is a little bit of a balance when you're looking at like whether it's a promotional tool or however you want to use social media or anything, kind of if you're making income from it, there's some parts of that are going to be a job to you.
100%. I agree with that. There's a good balance.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What you're doing with your social media through your stories and stuff, because I've been watching it since we connected, and I assume that sparks a lot of conversation, which is a great way to connect with people on like a deeper level.
100%.
But is that not really difficult to keep up with? Because those aren't like a 1-sentence response. That sparks a whole conversation with people.
Yeah. And a lot of people just react to it.
Sure.
It's not like a lot of questions. It's a lot like, hey man, that really resonated with me. I needed to hear this.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of things you can end with a like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not like,
sure.
I'm not asking questions. I'm just telling you how I feel. But with the engagement is really like, and my stories are getting more views because I'm doing this. Like,
yeah.
So it used to be a cap amount, and then it's like maybe a like or two from like the very devoted fans or whatever. And now it's just like a lot of like, thank you for saying that. It's just like very short and sweet. It does consume more time to respond than I would like. But it could be manageable. It feels less empty than what I was doing before. It feels more meaningful. I'm just trying to be kind of genuine, meaningful, and I don't need desperation. I agree with you saying is like you do what feels good to you, but don't do the work, but don't be so attached to a reward.
Yeah.
There's reward in the work itself,
Yeah, absolutely. I saw you post something the other day kind of talking about how you could be just, performing and doing jokes and whatnot that are what people expect or want you to do, but it wouldn't feel genuine to you. And you would see more growth if you did, what people expected.
Yeah, I wrote, sometimes I write little notes based on like conversations I have with the audience. So like I wrote this note yesterday and I just touching on this thing that you wrote, you just said. So I did the first show Thursday, and this lady who seen my drive-by probably, or listened to the first album, I can tell like she saw something and liked it. She yelled out something. I was kind of like pondering a thought, and then she's interrupted with like family, and I was like, what? She goes, family's overrated. That's what she said. And I was like, I don't know what the intentions behind this. And I was like, all right, cool. I made a little joke and moved on. But after the show, she's like, her husband liked me a lot and said something nice. He was like, hey, he's a writer and a former professor. Is like, when you write a good essay, you should see the brain at work. And I felt like I saw you thinking out there. And I couldn't tell where you're going to go. Da, da, da. He was giving me a nice compliment. And then she was kind of more disappointed, I can tell.
Okay.
And then she was like, family, my friend said family are overrated. Family humor is the best type of humor. It doesn't offend nobody. She just kept like passive aggressively telling me that I should have done family jokes.
Sure.
And then I, at one point I said, hey, like this is a kind of art of expression. And if you give expression too much structure, you like limit yourself. You put yourself in a box, and it's just like, that's not how it's supposed to be. So based on that interaction, I just kind of like thought about what she said, and I wrote down, just because it's what you want to hear, it does not mean it is what I should be saying. Art at its best is unpredictable, even for the creator. It's an expression of soul and an exercise in freedom. It can't have structure or expectations. Let me tell these dick jokes, lady. That's what I wrote. That's how I feel, man. It's just like some people come with this expectations of like what you should say because they liked something you said, but it shouldn't. Everything I say shouldn't resonate with you.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be uncomfortable. If I'm saying a thought that made you feel a little uncomfortable or challenge your belief or views, even though that I just intend to be funny, that's a good thing. You shouldn't live your life fully comfortable every time. Like my favorite comedians always start with a premise that you don't even want to entertain.
Sure.
And they win you over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that happens in movies and all kinds of different art, right? Like, I think if you watch a movie that gives you a feeling, even if you don't like it, like I watched a documentary last night that I was like, God, I hate that. But it meant it was good because it actually did evoke some kind of emotion in me.
100%. And people have a lot more patience and they suspense their disbelief a lot more in movies when they should do it at comedy shows. Sure. Sometimes they hang on to every fucking word you say. Sometimes it's just like a misdirection or like an exaggeration. But in movies, we've learned to like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I'll sit through it. If you can sit through a sex scene with your mom and dad, you can handle my dick joke, okay? You can, you know what I mean? You can handle a little discomfort and whatever a political thing I said or whatever. Even though I'm not quite political, but. Yeah, man, it's just it's okay. And I was watching a movie that I thought was bananas. It was shot really beautifully. I'm trying to remember what it was. Have you watched that movie? Any of you watched a movie? And the premise was the mom dies and she's pregnant.
Poor kid
and
or something?
then there's a mad scientist who puts the brain of the mom into the baby.
Yeah.
So it's a baby, but she has her mother's brain. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, I remember hearing you talk about it. It's like poor child or poor kid
thing,
or poor thing. Yeah.
And I was watching that with like regular people in the theater, and I was like, yeah. And a lot of the movie is this girl who's wait. It's the mom's body with the baby brain.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. So in a lot of the movie, she's a baby, but she has a woman's body, and she becomes a prostitute. So there's like a good 10, 15 minutes of her being a hooker.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is kind of pedophile-ish.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a baby's getting So I don't care what body he has. You know what I mean? This is so bad.
Yeah.
I ethically is a weird thing to watch, and everybody's watching normal, chilling, movie's over. It was like, oh, it's a good movie, and I was like, you can handle that. You can handle a joke.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's weird how people comfort changes based on the medium. Like with politics, okay, forget art and movies, right? Those are things that can be exaggerated and blah blah blah. Politics is literal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people from whatever end say wild shit or affect your life in a very negative way. And there's less complaints about that than people get. There's more articles about stand-ups than politicians, and the standard for us feels higher than these guys who actually can affect your life in a very direct and powerful way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious what the psychology behind that would be. Just because if somebody's critiquing something such as a comedian or whatever, there's not as much blowback, to them versus if you critique something politically, especially on social media, that opens you up now to have conversations with your friends and your family about values, beliefs. It's a more vulnerable thing to push back against.
100%. And then maybe it's easier.
Right.
And sometimes I think it might be just misguided anger. I think people,
I think a lot of people are misguided.
Yeah. It's a lot of, you're taking the energy and you're putting it in the wrong place.
Yeah. I am still curious. We briefly touched on the Colbert thing, but I'm really curious what a day like that looks like. I'm not saying what's a day in your life, but that specific thing, how did that come up and how long were you on set? Can you kind of walk me through what that day was like?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, man. It was quite a bit ago, 2020.
3-4 years ago?
Yeah, it was kind of the most memorable part was performing. How did that go? You get a number of tickets or guest list that you can bring. And then they send a driver, pick you up from the airport. They put you in a hotel next to the venue. Show up at it's during the days when they show up around 3 p.m. or something like that. Check in. You got this green room. The green room was cool because it had the guitar that Prince owned. So there was this cool purple guitar that I really tried to take, but it was
there was security.
Very secure. If I was like, I don't steal, but if I steal, I'm stealing this thing. And you just kind of waiting for the thing, and then you just perform in front of a live audience.
How many people are in the audience for that?
I can't tell you, bro. It's the Ed Sullivan Theater. I'm sure it's a number you can look it up, but it's a decent amount.
Yeah.
But it's cool because the Ed Sullivan Theater, I'm a comedy guy, stand-up is my thing. So I watch the people before me. I respect the history of it. And the Ed Sullivan Theater is a legendary place. That's the Ed Sullivan Show was on that same theater, right? So it has so much history, not just stand-up. I believe that's where the Beatles performed for the first time in America. That's Elvis's second time ever on TV was on that stage. So you're aware that you're sharing a stage with all these legends and comics, and the energy still remains. Energy I don't think goes away. So you sometimes go to a space and you're like, this feels good. This because love was put into the space.
Sure.
You sometimes go to a space and it's this feels miserable. It's this feels heavy to be in here. It's because a lot of depression and energy remains. So over there, dude, you go on that stage and it's it feels every second felt big. It felt like every moment felt grand, and it was interesting energy on that stage. It was very cool. So but you have to be precise with late night. You have 5 minutes, and these 5 minutes you've written and you submit it to them, and the FCC has to look at it, and and you can only do what you submitted. You can't say McDonald's and you're saying boom. You can't, hey, that's a sponsor or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to be precise. That's the hardest thing. The hardest set to do, I think, is late night because you got to be so precise with time, with structure, with jokes. And then with the precision, you want to look natural. So you don't want to feel like you're reading off a paper. So it's a delicate dance between precision and natural. And there's limitations. The funniest shit you have is not what they necessarily need or want. Every platform has an agenda or things that they like. If you watch a lot of Fallon stand-up, it's a lot of whimsical, just non-edgy. There's not a lot of edge or political takes or anything like that. You watch Colbert, it feels like he's trying to empower voices, so it's a lot more political and stuff like that.
Right.
Conan I loved because it felt like anything can go on that show. So you kind of figure out the format, and you try to figure out how you can best fit that format. And man, the most interesting part about that, actually, it's how it came about. I I believe in like, like the spiritual shit, like positive affirmation, and like, put in something. If you put you key into what you want and you do the work, I think the universe opens things out. God, whatever you want to call it, it helps you out. So I wanted to do late night because it's like a big part of stand-up. I've always, wanted to do one. So what I did is I just wrote a set. I studied late night sets. I was like, okay, this is kind of what the structure, go shorter jokes, like that's all kind of like what they did. And I found the 5-minute that I thought would be good. And I started practicing it at mics and stuff like that. And then one day I recorded it. There was no promise of late night. No one told me I have it. And I have no manager or agent at that time. And just I had that 5-minute set in the vault. And then one day when I did the album, my producer knew the booker for Colbert, and he pitched her and sent her my album. And she's never said yes to any of his people. Oh, and wow. I was the first guy. She goes, I like Ali. And then not necessarily I'm like the funniest guy he's sent. It's more so like I've fit the structure. Sure. And she was like, send me a tape. Had the tape ready. I've already thought about this. Right. I've already worked on the 5. I know exactly what I want to do. So I sent her the 5, and Colbert saw it, and it's like, I like this guy, and that's it. Wow. But there's a lot of waiting. So between when I got a yes and then when I actually did it was like 8-9 months.
Sure.
And then the first round was like 2019 actually. So they pre-recorded. The pandemic happened. They didn't release my first set. So I actually had to go back in 2020 when they opened back up and do the set again. And I think I was the first stand-up post them coming back from 2020. So that was the first guy that did stand-up post 2020. But yeah, it was a lot of ways. And this business is a lot of waiting. Like my dry bar took 1.5 years for it to come out since it was recorded. My epics took about 1.5 years. My Kevin Hart set took about 8-9 months. My what else did I do? Drama Don't Tell took a lot faster. But yeah, you learn to be patient, and you learn that sometimes things don't get released. Sometimes you do something and it doesn't mean that it's going to go on TV.
I think that's just like kind of all entertainment business stuff is like you build relationships with people. I always tell people with business, I view it as like you sow a lot of seeds and you don't know which plant is going to grow when really. Yeah. You just like keep putting out all of these things so you're ready for whenever something works. Like I was stressing out about finances over the winter because I had some stuff come up with my house and whatever. But I was telling my friend about it. I'm like, well, I got any number of these. And I was like, this. I was like, if any of them work out, then I'm golden. And then over the course of 3 days, like 3 things worked out. And I was like, oh, killer. Awesome, but I didn't know what was going to work out kind of when, Yeah. So when did you actually become like a full-time, when did you make it where it was your full-time income? Did it take a long time to get to that point?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes
for a lot of people,
A lot of people take a long time. I mean, like I think when I was like full-time comic, I think there was like maybe 5 other comedians in Minnesota who were truly full-time, no day jobs. Right. It's a very hard thing to make a living out of. I think end of 2019, like November is when I quit my job. November, I quit by that time I had a part-time job. I was doing 20 hours as a brand manager for Whirlpool. And I did the Dubai thing. I did the Comedy Central special, and they gave me cash. They gave me like a decent amount of cash, like $7,000-8,000. Sure. And I had a little bit of a saving to like, okay, I can do this for 2-3 months without having to, let me just use this saving to do stand-up for 3 months and see if I can make it into a little bit. Yeah. And I took that leap of faith. I got, and I was like, if I have to get a job after that, I can get a job. And after that, the pandemic hit. I was good. Pandemic hit, and then I was able to, do unemployment to get me through the pandemic. And then when the pandemic was over, road opened up, and I started just doing a lot of road stuff. Yeah, I was getting, I got decent royalties from SiriusXM for my albums, and I just needed to make an X amount of money to like pay my bills. So initially, I wasn't making a lot. It was like 25,000-30,000 like of money made in a year or something like that. But it was just barely making a living. But that number kept increasing. Right. And yeah, now I'm at a place where like I'm making a lot more than I did in any day job.
Yeah.
So it's over time it's sustained. But yeah.
Well, it makes a big difference once you can put full-time energy into it, right? Then you can put more into
Yeah, and
your
it goes back
socials and
to
everything else.
that belief that I'm talking about, like the
Right.
universe thing. When you truly let go, and this guy told me, I was a professional magician and stand-up. He's very cool. He was on AGT. He told me when I told him I'm quitting and going full-time, he goes, luck favors the bold, something like that, or fortune favors the bold. And I thought that was very cool. And I think, yeah, when I went for it, and sometimes people do that a little premature, and they fail. And then sometimes people I know people who do comedy full time that shouldn't.
Sure. Honestly, I think with any art, if you're really good at the business, you can kind of fake it and push through.
Yeah, if you're really struggling out here and it's like you're missing payments and stuff like that, I don't think that's smart. I'm a little, you're type A, but I'm reasonable. You know what I mean? I'm flexible, but I'm not gonna be behind on payments and shit like that for art.
Absolutely. I mean, when I closed down my store, I was kind of in a place where I had a little nest egg where I'm like, I'm good for a while, and then I could try to work on building these things up. I'm curious about the album thing. So you told me off mic that you're kind of working through a set that you're going to put out on an album. But what feels like to me anyways in 2025 is it's so easy to record video, and video is such a helpful tool as well. Yeah. To me, it's hard to envision why I would want to do only
the beauty is like I'm probably going to set a camera as well. So I have a nice camera. I have a Sony FX3. And maybe I'll rent another one and just set up. The audio is going to be phenomenal, so I'm just going to set up 2 angles, and I could literally make that into like a video thing. So you should definitely use. Nowadays, you shouldn't just do album alone. I think you can tape the footage and maybe clip it up or whatever.
Sure.
So that's a given. But yeah, albums as a standalone thing is like part of stand-up, and it's been part of stand-up for a long time. It's inspired a lot of people to get into stand-up. Like some of my favorite comedians were like Bill Burr. All these guys will talk about how as a kid they would listen to Pryor and they weren't allowed to, and and like that's kind of how like their love of stand-up started.
Sure.
So I did it initially for that, and then I realized there's some money in it. So if you get to SiriusXM, you can get some royalties, so that helps. So I haven't had an album since 2020. That's the last time I recorded one, and I have 2. So I was like, I have so many jokes that I haven't put on an album.
Yeah.
So I've been just gonna jot down all the jokes that I haven't done, and I'm just gonna put something together and do another hour and record it.
And that's gonna be exclusively only then in there. None of those jokes are gonna show up in your other specials or anything. It'll only be for the audio?
We'll see. There's no rules.
Yeah, sure.
If Netflix knocks on the door and says, "Hey, we're gonna we want you to do a special," I'm gonna put my best hour possible. I'm not gonna go like this was on Dry Bar. I own the material. It's my stuff.
Are you looking to create a special, like film a whole thing and then pitch it to all the streaming services?
It's expensive to go that way. You're talking about $80,000-$90,000 in expenses to like make a Netflix approved good. I don't know if I don't have that money, and I don't know if I want to take that risk. I think it's cool nowadays that you can do it for a lot less and put it on YouTube, and it's like a respectable place for people to go find your content.
Yeah.
So I think that's not a bad idea. Just like put it up on the internet where it's accessible and people can watch it. It's just the whole thing is you want exposure,
Yeah.
Netflix doesn't really pay that much for.
Right. No, it's more of an exposure thing. That's what Beth had told me.
And Netflix is so saturated with specials now.
Right.
It's not as good for you exposure wise as it used to be back when like Segura and all these guys were doing it. And it's changing. People now go through Hulu. Hulu's starting to do stand-up. Peacock is doing stand-up. All I want is just a place for people to watch my stuff.
So what's the strategy then with your own YouTube? Are you going to try to release stuff on your own, or is it
I've released that last special on my own, and I might have to strip. I've been meaning to do this. I haven't had time, but I'm gonna cut it into like a 30-minute thing and post it again, because I think based on the subject matter, the algorithm can help you or doesn't help you. So I have religious jokes on my special about Jesus and stuff like that, and I think religious is some of the worst thing you can do for monetization and algorithm, and it never pays. It's never you make a joke about Jesus, it's not gonna go anywhere. but it's just like, it's a fun joke that I love and I like.
Yeah.
So I think the religious stuff has been hurting the algorithm.
Sure.
It's not being showed to enough people because of that. So I'm gonna like do kind of almost like a cleaner version of that special itself because I love it so much, and edit it in a fun way and then repost it.
Sure.
So that's what I need to do with that one because I feel like it hasn't gotten to enough people because it's been.
Is that the one about the gay Jesus?
Yeah.
That was like my favorite joke.
That's
think,
a great
the entire
joke.
thing. That is so good.
A lot. It's not like the most original premise. I'm sure other people have came.
I've never heard that one.
But it's how I went about it. Some
Sure.
people are like, yeah, because he had 12 friends or men. You know, like they go like a hacky way. But yeah, a lot of that joke is like it's also like an accumulation of 3 jokes that became a super joke. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Those are like independent thoughts. So that one, gay Jesus has hurt your boy big time. That joke is funny because like even in like when I do it live, I can tell like my sales get hurt.
Sure.
Like when I do merch after the show, if I do that joke, it's half the sales.
Are you careful about what jokes then you tell, depending on what the audience is, like what demographic you're in, whether you're in Utah or Wisconsin or New York?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I've been doing like trans jokes. I've been doing pro gay jokes, and like in Eau Claire is not like the most.
Eau Claire's pretty blue.
It's blue, but it's also Midwestern and
it's a red state. Yeah.
It's a red state, but it's also Midwestern.
Yeah.
Midwestern. A lot of Midwesterns are kind of like stoic and they don't want to confront too much feelings and blah blah blah. They're like more like I feel like socially aware. Like we don't talk about politics or religion or sex. There's a little bit of that attitude.
Yeah.
And because of that, people kind of get like, ooh, where's he gonna go with this? They get a little nervous.
Yeah.
And that's what I was telling you on Thursday. Like it was a little bit of that energy, but 30 minutes in, they trusted me and we had so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the Midwest for sure. Like, I've traveled a decent amount, and people in New York versus people in California versus people in the Midwest are very different. And I think people in the Midwest, there's a lot of like politeness. Fake nice, where it's like
it's not fake nice, it's just politeness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think
niceness in itself is not necessarily good.
How so?
Well, to be nice is to be pleasant.
Yeah.
Like you could be a nice guy who's not a good person, Cosby.
Yeah, sure.
You could be a good guy who's not nice. Because what is nice? Nice is like people associate niceness with like a warm tone. Hi.
Yeah.
Hey, it's good to see you. Smiling. What, dude? Let me know if you need help moving. Like you better. But I'm telling everything I'm saying is empty.
Sure.
So like there's people that are always nice, but they don't follow up with their words. I
guess that's how I view fake nice,
but that's not even. But nice can be faked easily. That's a problem. The identity of nice is surface level.
Sure.
Being kind, being a good person, that requires action. Because we know people who look like they want to beat you up.
Yeah, sure.
But they're not. They'll give you the shirt off their back.
Right.
They'll help you move. They'll be there for you, but they're just unpleasant.
Yeah.
But we know nice people who, you're Ellen DeGeneres, you're Cosby's, you're like they present nice, they know how to be nice and polite.
Sure.
But they're not necessarily good people.
Yeah.
So I think nice is an identity that you can. I'm pretty sure there's a Klan member who's nice. I'm pretty sure in the Klan meeting there's a guy who brings a pie and washes the hoods, you know what I mean? And doesn't curse, and people are like, oh, he's so nice, he doesn't cuss, but he just says the N-word.
Sure, yeah. But I feel like people are just, I don't know, a little bit more careful in the Midwest about like not trying to offend other people, like not trying to step on their toes.
Sure, or not wanting to confront their, feelings on things. Or
sure, but not everything has to be a confrontation either, right?
Yeah,
it's like I try to weigh situations of like, if I confront this person or I have this conflict, is it going to result in anything that matters? Or is it easier for me to just like let it go? It's not important. I'll just be nice, even though I don't like them.
Sure,
you know
sure. Yeah, and there's something to be about being pleasant,
right?
know?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to tell everybody you don't like them. You don't like them. You can just be cordial.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
There's cordial, and I don't like you. You can feel the energy because silence speaks more than words sometimes, right?
For sure.
But yeah, I don't like that. I don't trust people who are always nice. I'm like, what are you up to, bro? Because here's my thing with niceness. I do comedy, so I know a lot of sociopaths who do comedy. Comedy attracts ego as well.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest thing it attracts. So people who are sociopaths or just pure narcissists come to do stand-up because, hey, what other You love to hear your voice.
Sure.
And everybody's quiet while you have a microphone like a god, you know what I mean?
Podcasting.
So yeah. So it attracts really ill people, and and these people are always the nicest people.
Sure.
Because what they've learned is, in order for them to get what they want, they have to be, manipulation involves being nice.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll smile at you. Hey,
Sure.
dude, hey, good set. You know, like they learn to get their way by presenting nice.
Yeah.
But they're not good people. You understand?
Yeah. No, I understand the difference for sure. Man, this has been a powerful conversation. I always like to ask kind of a similar question towards the end. I know I'm like totally shifting topics.
Sure.
But I think when you do something that you're passionate about for a living, you get to have really unique experiences that are rarely financially driven, but they're like what make all the hard work worth it. They're more like meaningful experiences to you. If you could relive any one day from your career so far, which one would it be?
Relive one day. I'm a future guy, bro. I never linger. I think it's bad to linger in moments. I've seen people get ruin their career or whatever. Like they have one success,
sure,
and they hold on so tight to that success that they just, and it's fleeting, right? It's just like I see someone do a late night, or they have an album, or somebody said, "Hey, you were amazing." That was like a big comic, or whatever, and they just hold on so tight to that, and they just can't let go, that it ruins them. My whole thing is like, as soon as something nice happens, I enjoy it in the moment and I don't think about it. I felt like Colbert was a one-day celebration and I was done.
Sure.
I don't think back about it. I don't hold on to it, and that's been, I think, one of the key to my successes. I just move on.
Sure.
And look forward to something, get back to the work and look forward to other things that I could do. So because I don't think that way, it's a harder question for me.
But it's not based exclusively on something that's successful for your career.
Yeah.
You know
Okay, sure. It could be something like a little deeper than that.
Something that was personally meaningful to you in some kind of way.
I have one of the first wholesome moments is, I remember my, I think, I'm trying to remember what class it was. It was bad that I don't remember the class. That's how bad of a student I was. She was in a community college, North Hennepin Community College. Professor came to one of my early shows, and I thought that was really sweet. She came to my show. I didn't know she was going to come. Somehow she found like a local article about me and figured out that I was doing stand-up, and she came to like the House of Comedy and watched my show. And my sister took that class and said that she uses me as an example of like pursuing your dream and stuff like that. So like that was like super, like one of the nice things, you know. That's nice. I love the kindness of strangers, even though they don't like necessarily know me, and they just do, like, some people support you like you're like a family member. Like I have the
more than your family members.
Yeah, 100%. I'm more. Yeah. Like I had a Heather who's been like supporting me.
She's the one you posted on your story the other day.
Open micers like maybe 10 years ago, and she drove 3 hours, got a hotel to just come watch me. I like that. That's to me, that's more meaningful than like doing Colbert, honestly.
Yeah,
those things are nice, and it's more like ambition related than it is heart. This is like beautiful, bro. When people like really like with you and they show you that kind of love, like that, those I would if I can relive something through my career, I would love to relive like a reel of all these kind moments.
Yeah,
I think kindness and that type of love is a currency. It's the ultimate currency.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, you know, if you like think of, you know, those are things that kind of fuel you, keep you going, you know.
Right. When you get in a rut. I like to think back on some of those things too. And
100%.
there, you know, like one of them, which I'll keep the story super brief, was my favorite music artist ever, Sun Real. I interviewed him twice now. But he's from Vancouver. When he had came through and I did the interview with him, I remember when I finished it, we got off the mic and I was like, dude, thank you so much. This meant so much to me that you like were willing to do this. I've been a big fan for a long time. And he was just like very matter of fact. And he was like, dude, there's no reason to thank me. I did it because my manager said it was a good idea because you're good at what you do. And to me, because there was no emotion, it just was like, oh, so you respect what I do business wise.
Yeah.
That was really meaningful to me.
Yeah.
And then I told him that next time I saw him when I was out drunk, and it was really funny.
That's fun. I love that. I love when like a person you look out to like pays you respect. You know, like Chad Daniels is one of my favorite comedians. I think people should put him on their top 5 comedians. I think he's the best comic to ever come out from the Midwest ever. Maybe Mitch is up there, but Marie Bamford too. But he is so good, and I respected this man so much, and he was like a legend, you know. And when I came up to the scene, And he one time let me open for him at a theater in his near to his hometown in Fargo. And I was so nervous, and this is like my hero. And I gotta go do stand up in front of him, in front of some of his family members and stuff like that. And I had a decent 2 sets, and he was so complimentary, so kind, and like that meant the world to me. It meant the world to me that this guy like that I looked up to saw, and he was so generous. He had no ego. A lot of times these bigger comics, like, they get threatened by younger comics,
sure,
even when they shouldn't, even though the levels are clearly different. It's just like some sort of insecurity thing, and they just treat you with ego instead of love. And Chad had no ego, and he just looked so kind in his compliments and his feedback, and that meant a lot. It meant a lot. I feel what you're saying.
Yeah,
so it feels better when people are like, hey, I respect the work, instead of like, I like you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's cool when your friends support you, but it's cooler when somebody respects what you do. 100%. Let me give you a couple of gifts really quick, and then I want you to...
Oh, we got gifts? Can I get the cash? Let me get the cash.
The cash would be nice, right?
That cash would be...
So I have... Do you like coffee or not really?
Yeah. Coffee's
cool.
Good.
I got 2 bags of coffee for you.
Ooh.
Decaf for the afternoon and regular for during the day.
Amazing.
So
That's
big bag decaf.
gift.
This is from Minneapolis.
Love that.
And so is...
Great packaging.
Yeah, and the flavor there, what does it say? It's like chocolate... apple,
milk, chocolate, crisp apple, effervescent. What the f is effervescent?
I don't know, but it tastes good. I had it the other day because I paint a lot, and so I'll drink a whole pot of coffee in the morning because I'm horrible, and then I'll switch to decaf. And then the minimum wage Tim's in front of you as well.
This is so nice. Thank you.
Of course.
Same place?
Then same guy who's actually behind it, Tim Frederick. He plays music in Minneapolis. And then you can pick out one of my coffee mugs as
This is from Uganda. That's amazing.
The beans are, he actually traveled there, I want to say. He's been traveling all over the place. So, and you can have a mug from me to be able to put it in.
I love a podcast that gives you stuff.
That's the only reason you're here. Let's give a shout out quick. So Instagram, is that the main platform you're pushing to, which is Ali Sultan Comedy? Or where should people go find you?
It's so hard, bro. It's like, here's the thing. Like, when you go on the road, you want to sell tickets and have people come see you and get a full impression of what you do and have fun. And I'm really good on the road. Like, if I'm in your town, come see me. Trust me, it's going to be a good time. And Instagram, the annoying part is like, it's nice for numbers and stuff like that. And industry cares about like where your numbers are. Comedy clubs care about, you have more followers. Okay, we can trust to book you.
Right.
And see if we want to lose money with sales and stuff like that. So for sure, follow me, Ali Sultan Comedy, on Instagram. But the way I can track people and when I perform is an email list. If you go to alisultancomedy.com, I have an email list, and it's a Google form. So you just put your name and your city and your email. So when I come to that city, I look at it and I go, hey, let me email these folks and give them a heads up that I'm coming to their town, because sometimes I can post on Instagram and it hides it for us. So many times somebody will be like, you were just in Seattle?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see this until now. You know what I mean? So like, email list would be the ultimate way to see me live if that's what you want to do. Or you don't even need to follow me. If you just want to see stand, feel it out, go watch this YouTube special or something like that. If you like it and that's all you need, that's fine. If you're like, I like this, I want to support this guy, a follow would be nice. If you want to come see me live, even nicer. But yeah, whatever feels good to you.
Is there merch or anything on your website, or is it just some of your comedy specials are on there and then sign up for the email?
Just the couple of few clips, special stuff, bio if you want to learn a little more, and just that. Nothing else.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming back to Eau Claire.
Yeah.
If this wasn't, I have my kids half the time, week on, week off. So when I have them, it's really hard to get out and do stuff. But if I can make it tonight, I'll try. The fact that you watched my special fully, that means a lot. Thank you so much for doing it. Yeah, of course.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.